Hello and welcome back. I'm Nicole, Cottage Witch, and this month I am doing both the Magical Readathon and Shorty September. Well, sort of Shorty September. I've got a list of books that are short that I'd like to read in September, but beyond that I'm not really following their prompts. They have a lot of prompts. They're quite fun. But with the Magical Readathon I'm at prompt matching capacity and cannot do any more. So, the Magical Readathon, I don't even see this. There. She has done, she being Book Roast, who I'll link below, a syllabus, basically for a magical school, which is quite fun. So I am doing, what am I doing this year? Wild Form Druid. That's what I'm training to become, apparently. So there are a bunch of books that I need to read for that, based on various prompts. There are a bunch of books I've got for Shorty September, and then there are just some random books that I have read or I'm reading because that wasn't enough, apparently. One of them, I DNF'd from last month. I know at the end of last month I'd said I was still working on this. Yeah, I didn't finish it. I love Virginia Woolf. I'm going to get into The Waves and Mrs. Dalloway here in a second, which are fantastic. I really enjoyed them. This one, though, is too ordinary. It's too like George Eliot or Jane Austen. It's just too... I know some people will object to me calling either of those women ordinary. So, apologies if I've offended anybody. But I read Virginia Woolf for the beauty of her language and for the stream of consciousness and for the shifts in perspective, which just doesn't happen in day and night. And the writing was, it was early days for her. I think this was one of her earlier books. And it's just not, it's not there yet. It's her second novel. It's not there yet. Didn't do it for me. These ones, though. So Mrs. Dalloway is maybe the most famous. I don't think it's the best, but it's probably the most famous. Possibly because of The Hours by Scott Cunningham. Is that who it's by? No. Who is it by? Somebody. Cunningham something. I'm getting my people and names mixed up again. Don't believe anything I say, basically, because my memory is terrible. Anyway, this book is beautiful. I mean, if you're looking for plot, there's not a lot that happens. Like, there's a dinner party, there is a suicide, and there's planning for said dinner party. Like, that's basically it. There's not much in the way of plot. There's even less. There is no plot in The Waves. I have actually never read a book in my life with less plot than this, and I have read Marcel Proust, I've read other Virginia Woolf books. Yeah, no, nothing happens. That's not the point. The point is, these interior monologues, so you spend a lot of time in the minds of different people and just experience life through their eyes. So it's more, this Mrs. Dalloway is more of a character study sort of book. The Waves is not even that. So basically, there are 6 people meet in a garden close to the sea, their voices sounding over the constant echo of the waves that roll back and forth from the shore. One of their friends has just passed away. Literally nothing happens. But this book is not about anything. I'm not even sure it's about, you could find like thematic themes it's about. I'm sure you probably could. But for me, it's mostly about the experience of the language and the experience of moving between this person's consciousness and the sea and that person's consciousness and sometimes the sea again. Excuse me. Don't know what's wrong with my throat today. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's one of my favorites. I still think I like To the Lighthouse better, but it's gorgeous and I loved it. And I will definitely read it again. I will not probably attempt Night and Day again. Okay. Oh, and Mrs. Dalloway. So these two both qualify for Shorty September on account of their being short, which is lovely. Mrs. Dalloway, what did I have that down for? Oh yeah, shape-shifting, inanimate objects, jewelry, on the cover or title. Where is it? So you can see jewelry is involved in this dinner party. So that's that one. And then for another prompt, and I've done them sort of out of order because why would I do things in order? That would be too sensible. Astronomy, a book released on your birth month. For that, I finally read Greek to Me, Adventures of the Comic Queen by Mary Norris. She is, excuse me, she's been a copy, I think, editor of The New Yorker for ages and ages. And she wrote a book, I think, called The Comic Queen. And I read that one and enjoyed it, so I thought I'd try this. This one I didn't enjoy quite so much, but, I mean, it was still fun. I still liked it. Oh, Between You and Me. That was her first book, Confessions of a Comic Queen. This one does explore mostly her experience learning Greek, going to Greece, the English language in Greek, and her experiences between all of those things. What was next? Oh yeah, this is not related to any of these readathons, but I finally finished, after like 3 months of working on it, Unsettled Remains, Canadian Literature and the Post-Colonial Gothic. This is a library book because it is university priced, which is ridiculous. And as I'm not a university student anymore, I am not paying over $100 for a book. No, thank you. Anyway, this didn't count for anything, I don't think, but it was really interesting. There were some chapters, so it's a collection of essays. They are a bit academic. Some of them were about books that I don't really care to read. Some older Canadian books, some more obscure ones. But some more recent ones, and a lot that have Gothic components, but wouldn't be called Gothic horror or Gothic romance necessarily. But the books in question have elements that could be considered Gothic. And the way the Gothic works, I hope I'm not getting sick, maybe it's just allergies. The way the Gothic works as like a social commentary, or sometimes a pushback against patriarchal systems, or against what's the word I'm looking for? Colonialism. So some of these were called like post-colonial Gothic. I guess that's in the subtitle. I mean, there are some debates as to whether we are truly post-colonial. But some of these are by Indigenous authors, some of these books that they're talking about. I have no idea about the ethnicity of the authors of the essays. But some of the books they're talking about, like Kiss of the Fur Queen and Monkey Beach, I really want to read sometime this fall. And they are by Indigenous authors, and they do play a bit, it sounds like, with expectations of the Gothic and what that usually does in terms of, or had traditionally done in terms of buoying up colonial structures, and making anything that veered too far away from the standard a bit scary. Some of them rethink whose ghosts are scary, whose mythological creatures are scary, that sort of thing. So yeah, it was pretty interesting. It did take a while to get through though, because the language sometimes got a little too academic, which wasn't my favorite thing. Okay, here are more Shorty September ones. That I don't think, nope, okay, good. I am not a fan of Gertrude Stein, as it turns out. So, basically, she was also modernist, but unlike Virginia Woolf, her writing is so plain, like excessively plain, and kind of chunky, like boxy or something. And that was intentional. She tried to strip it back to the bare bones, and it's pretty bare. Yeah. So, not for me. I just found it a bit flat, I guess, a little bit dull. But then again, I guess if flowery language doesn't really suit you, if you find somebody like Virginia Woolf her language a little too flowery, too effusive, too whatever, maybe try Gertrude Stein. I don't know. But yeah, that didn't quite do it for me. And then I read The Old Man and the Sea. And he, I think, he had some sort of personal relationship with Gertrude Stein. They knew each other, and I think she had reviewed some of his work at one point. And it's similarly pretty bare bones. It's not entirely sure how to describe this book, because there is a strange sort of beauty to it, but it's still not my favorite. Had a hard time getting into it. It's very short, so there's not a lot to get into. And the story itself was fine, but the way the story was told was a bit like, I don't know how to describe it. I'm not sure I understand the Hemingway hype, is the long and the short of that. Then I read, so this is The Rime of the Ancient Mariner and Other Poems by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. I just read The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. I've read some of his other poems before, and I will read the rest of them. But this time I just wanted to read The Ancient Mariner because it comes up in a lot of Gothic fiction. It's referenced a lot, including, I think, in Frankenstein. Excuse me. And I sort of wanted to know what it was about. It's very pretty. The language is beautiful. I enjoyed it. It's a fun story. Yeah, I'll read it again sometime. Liked that one. Okay. Alright. Greek to me. Yep. Check. Wonderful. Okay. Then I read... Oh, and this was also 4. I'm a little chaotic today, I'm sorry. Shape-shifting. Navigation after transformations, a compass on the cover. And I slightly cheated on this one because there is a compass on the cover of some versions. Not specifically this one, as far as I can tell, but he's a sailor. He'd have a compass. That's what I'm going with. Anyway, one of the other prompts is for Animal Studies, Recognizing Morphs, a book that had a cover change. This book has had many covers over the years. When was it written? 1988. This is The Satanic Verses by Salman Rushdie. I am just over halfway through the audiobook, which is quite an interesting way of reading this book. It's so bizarre. It's really good. Like, the writing is good, the story is interesting, the characters are interesting. It's a strange book. It's a really strange book. It's like half of it is dreams or hallucinations or a very strange world in which people sprout halos and turn into goats. You're never entirely sure, at least I'm never entirely sure, what is potentially a hallucination and what is like legitimately happening. Which makes it a little disorienting, but that's kind of the point. So it's kind of also about the experience of these 2 Indian guys immigrating to England for work, and how disorienting an experience that is. And so the experience of reading the book sort of reflects that, which is really interesting. And the fact that he could pull it off in this sort of comprehensive way is pretty impressive. McLean said it's drawing on thousands of years of Indian history, politics, religion, and mythology. It kind of is. Also, fun fact, apparently the Satanic Verses are an actual thing that exist. They really existed in Islam until they didn't, and people decided that they were not real, that Muhammad never received them, that he was infallible, and so that he couldn't have. That happened in like the 1300s or something. So before that, these allegedly satanic verses that he'd allegedly gotten from Satan, thinking he was getting verses from the angel Gabriel, really existed. There were 3 Arabian goddesses involved in some way, which is wild. Did not know that fun bit of history. Anyway, I'm not quite 2/3 the way through, I think. And yeah, it's fascinating. It's bizarre, but it's fascinating, and I'm really glad I've finally gotten to it. Now, did I miss anything? quite possibly magical readathon. Nope, satanic verses, Greek to me. Oh yeah, one other book that I'm reading I changed to this. Astronomy, constellation, book released on your birth month. Nope, that's not the one I changed. Restoration, night dew, night sky on the cover. There's a night sky for you. So this is Gothic Literature by Sue Chaplin. It is a English textbook about Gothic literature. It's got, here, if you want to see, whoops, coordination not being my strong suit. So far I've only read the introduction and a cultural overview. So I'm about to start part 3, which is texts, writers, and contexts. So it goes by century, basically. And then part 4 is critical theories and debates, and that'll be fun. So yeah, interesting so far. And I can't remember what I was going to do for this prompt, but I felt like reading this book, and it was really conveniently a night sky. So that's fun. So I'm gonna go read some of that, and then maybe tomorrow, I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do, but between tomorrow and Saturday I might try and do one of those 24-hour readathons. Somebody did it one recently like that, where it was split into 2 days, and I can't remember who it was, but I'll link them down below. And it was fun, and I got through like 3.5 books, which is great, and which I really need to do this weekend because I'm going away next week. So I'm gonna go read a book for a while now. Okay, so I started reading part 3 of Gothic Literature, which was fun, and then I fell asleep. Whoops. Didn't really mean to do that for like 2 hours, but anyway, so then I had to do other things, like get ready for bed and all that, and listened to more Salman Rushdie, the Satanic Verses, which I still don't understand, but it's fascinating. Yeah, it's very confusing. Not sure what's happening, but it's a very cool book. Anyway, ooh, fun tangent. The other thing I was doing tonight was, a bit of glare here with my bedside light, the Literary Witches Oracle and the Harwood Tarot are quite fun. Just, you know, a little PSA. And I've got to get back to learning runes one of these days. Okay, I'm back. This is an update that's kind of a non-update because, well, it's sort of an update. I didn't get as much reading done as I wanted to because I got distracted by the internet, as does happen. So I finished the chapter 18th Century Gothic, Walpole, Radcliffe, and Lewis. That was pretty interesting, despite the fact none of them are my favorite Gothic writers. And now I'm on to Romantic Era Gothic, Coleridge, Byron, and Mary Shelley. And apparently they had a sort of fraught relationship with Gothicism, Byron and Coleridge and others, because it was viewed, basically people were snobs. I mean, people are still snobs, but people were definitely snobs then about what was good literature and what wasn't. And Gothic was the low art for the masses, and Romantic poetry was higher art. It's basically the long and the short of it, so that's just something I'm going to roll my eyes at forever. Read what you like. Also, even if they didn't like the word Gothic being attached to their work, there's things Coleridge and Byron wrote that are definitely Gothic. So they'll live. Well, they won't, but you know. Anyway, so I'm partway through that chapter. So what I'm going to try and do is by the end of the weekend, before I leave for a little trip, finish this book, and then I want to finish this one, which I'm listening to an audiobook, and I've got about 4 hours left, I think, out of 21, so that's okay. I can do that this weekend. But that's going to have to be a different video because I'm running out of room on my phone. So, basically, that's that for the first 6 days? Yeah, the first week of September in my reading life adventures. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.